as you say in your piece, who is the chairman of Tottenham and what has he done with Daniel Levy?
Yeah, it's been a very, very different transfer window for Tottenham so far. You know, Daniel Levy's been running Tottenham since 2000. That's when ENIC bought out Alan Sugar's stake. And I don't really think they've had a window like this not just in terms of the amount of money they've spent, but the timing they've spent it on, the type of players they've spent it on, signing early in the window, which is something they never used to do, not leaving it to the end, and just kind of throwing their weight around in a way we've never really seen from Tottenham before. So it feels like he's kind of ripped up his playbook that he's relied on for the last 20 years to get to this point.
Did that instruction come from ENIC then? I mean, what was the process in leading up to how they have dealt with this transfer window?
I don't think the instruction would have come from ENIC just in the sense that Daniel Levy I think he can run Tottenham as he sees fit, although with the proviso that before this summer, there wouldn't be much money coming in from ENIC. You know, the £150 million injection that they did at the end of last season is something which they hadn't done for a very, very long time. So I think it is down to Levy. I think really it's a reaction to two things. One is the economic circumstances of right now, namely the money they've got coming in from the stadium, Champions League return, and also the sense that now is a really good buyer's market. It's a great time to throw your weight around. The other, I think, is the political reality of the pressure that is exerted on Daniel Levy by Antonio Conte and to a lesser extent Fabio Paratici, and the sense that Levy has to spend money now, not just to succeed, but also to keep these guys happy, and particularly to keep Conte happy because he's anxious about what would happen if he doesn't.
We'll come on later to more of Tottenham's finances, and if that doesn't keep you listening, then I don't know what will. James, how much do you put Tottenham's perceived success in this window down to the head coach, sporting director relationship?
I don't think Tottenham would have been this aggressive if Nuno was still the coach in charge. I think Conte is very self-aware when it comes to his reputation. He takes very seriously his legacy, which is when clubs appoint me, the fan base, the media expect me to win. And every time I don't win, he feels that very, very strongly. And so I think at the end of last season, you know, he delivered in getting the club back into the Champions League. But it was very interesting following Conte and Tottenham around that time, because fourth wasn't enough, I think, for Conte. He wanted the ability to push on. He didn't want to be fighting for fourth again. And whenever he's taken a job, he's always said, all I need is just a 1% belief that I can win something here. And, you know, when he turned down the Tottenham job a year ago the first time, one of the readings of that was he didn't believe that there was a 1% chance of Tottenham winning anything. But I think Conte has been aggressive, not in his sort of demeanor or personality, but aggressive in just his will to win. And Paratici is like that as well. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to sit behind Paratici at a game. He kicks every ball in much the same way that Antonio Conte does. He's very animated, very emotionally invested in how well his team does. And so, you know, I think Tottenham had an opportunity, a window with this manager, Conte, that they had to back him. Otherwise, he would have walked away, I think, in the summer. I think it's because these two guys, Chappers, they're just very credible. They're winners. Conte has got clubs like Siena and Bari promoted into Serie A. He, won the Scudetto with Juventus at a time when they hadn't won anything for 9 years. If you go by the Calciopoli ruling, which revoked 2 titles from them. Paratici got Sampdoria to their first cup final in 14, 15 years, got them into the Champions League playoffs, and then recruited for a Juventus team that won the league every year for 9 years. You don't do that with the same team. You rebuild over and over again. He kept them on top. So I think that has put Conte and Paratici in a very strong position when it's come to saying to Daniel Levy and the board at Tottenham to back us.
Do you both think that this is a very Juve transfer window for Tottenham?
Juventus on Thames, as Tottenham are occasionally called in Italy.
One of the messages that Conte's had recently has been he wants to get across that what Tottenham are doing now is normal. It's normal for a big club to behave like this. So in the press conference on Saturday after the game, they beat Southampton, Conte was asked about the players who they looked at, the players who they had bought already this summer. And Conte said, I was really surprised to read that someone was astonished that we signed 6 players early in the window. Now, look, obviously he knows that lots of people, not only me but others, have said, what an unusual thing for Tottenham to do. But clearly, in Conte's mind, this is just what you do. You buy the players you want at the start of the window, so you've got them for pre-season. And this kind of traditional Tottenham policy of, we need João Moutinho in midfield, but we're only going to try and sign him on the last evening of the transfer window from Porto, and then they don't get it. And then all of a sudden, Tottenham are going into the 2012-13 season without replacement for Luka Modric. Like, that's not really how a big club should behave. So I think Conte's line is, this is actually what we should have been doing all along.
So is that how they persuaded Levy to change his... to change that philosophy then? I mean, did they sit down with him and go, look, you can't, you say João Moutinho then. Let's say in previous windows, if they'd gone for Richarlison in previous windows, you get the impression it would have happened on deadline day because they'd have tried to have knocked 10 million quid off Everton's asking price or whatever it had been. So did they sit down, I don't know, April, May, whatever, and go, look, we have to do this in a different way? Because several people may have tried that with Levy in the past and not succeeded.
I think so, yeah. I definitely have been told that Paratici has been very influential on Levy, and I'm sure Conte has been as well, in terms of impressing on him, this is how we have to do things now. I know that in the past, Levy's had other people in as directors of football, Damian Comolli, Arneson, Baldini, etc. But somebody said to me the other day that Paratici's the most powerful and ruthless director of football that Levy's ever appointed. Like, I think he has a lot more power within the club. Like Levy still has a lot of power over transfers. He's still very much involved on this, but Paratici's just a bigger figure, I think, inside the club than those guys, and he really has got Levy's ear on this.
I was reminded of Conte's first season at Inter. I went on tour with them to Singapore and then China, and Conte's first press conference before a friendly. So he'd only been in the job a few weeks. He was saying, guys, we're behind. We're behind schedule on signings. We need to get these deals over the line. Come on. And I remember even some of the Italian press pack around me were surprised that he'd gone so early in raising issues over transfer strategy with Inter's owners, with the board. And I think what Paratici has done this window, and Levy, is that they've shown that they understand the manager. They understand what he needs, because the only time over this pre-season where I've heard Conte kind of go a little bit off message was when he was asked about Jed Spence, and he said he's a club signing. Perhaps someone who's there to be developed, rather than someone that I have specifically asked the club to sign, because you can see there are certain players. The most obvious is Perisic, someone who he knows. Perisic could have arrived on the last day of pre-season. He would already be very well versed in what Conte wants from him. But we haven't really heard Conte feel he has to use the media to accelerate transfer strategy. It's been a very harmonious, coherent way of approaching the market so far. And I even throughout the last decade of following Conte, it's been a very tranquil summer in that sense. So I think that is credit to Paratici, and obviously credit to Levy as well.
It's a remarkably balanced set of signings, isn't it, Jack? Whether you look at it positionally, they've strengthened each area of the pitch. Whether you look at it positionally, whether you look at experience, promise, players who are Premier League ready. This could come back to haunt me when they finish 7th and get knocked out of all cups they're in before the quarterfinals or whatever. But it looks so balanced what they've done.
Yeah, it really, really is. And they've also done things they would never do before. Like for me, I think probably the most interesting one to me is actually Richarlison, just because he's the least Tottenham signing of the lot, even more than Perisic. He's a 33-year-old who's come in on I think at least £180,000 a week on a 2-year deal. But Richarlison, they spent 50 plus £10 million on this guy. He's not even immediately in the first team. I know he was suspended for the Southampton game, but he wouldn't have started even if he was fit because Kulusevski's so good. Like Richarlison's come in to be a very, very high level rotation squad player. And for Tottenham to do a deal like that, that's the kind of deal that, Liverpool would do with Diego Jota or City would do with Riyad Mahrez. Like for Tottenham to sign a player like this is completely out of their normal policy. And they are stronger across the pitch. They did have no depth last year. Conte was complaining the other day that they finished the season with basically 13 players. This season, they've got a whole Champions League group stage, which is squeezed into 8 weeks, and they're going to need more depth. So I do think, I know some Spurs fans would like them to have signed one more like kind of glamorous player to come straight into the first team. Maybe they will do. I kind of suspect probably not. But the whole squad is definitely much, much, much stronger for having had this window.